All right, I don't believe we had anyone left behind for public comment. Number 6, so that brings us to item number 7, approved minutes for the regular electric utility board meeting, August 20th, 2019. Does anyone have anything there? If not, I'd take a motion to second by Mr. Taylor. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None same. Those are approved. Mr. McCullough?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On page 22 of the written report, there's some coverage this month, news media coverage on solar panels, infrastructure, outage, and lower rates. There's quite a bit. There's 9 stories on solar panels, which was pretty good exposure for some of the things that are happening there. On jumping over to page 27, the reliability index, the system average interruption duration index, which is on the third one down on the right-hand column. Saw some improvement this year. We had a much better August than August of 18, as you can see. I think we had quite a bit of thunderstorm activity in August of last year. Not so much this year. So the trend is good there. We've been pretty flat for the whole year, but hopefully we can continue to improve on that. I wanted to mention also on that same page, the Massengale unit was available and was dispatched 31 days during the month, producing 22,000 gigawatt hours, or 22.8 gigawatt hours of energy. That's a pretty significant feat that we can have those units run every single day during the month and run reliably. Credit goes to our production crew, led by Michael Weingart, who's in the back of the room here. And Brandon also was available and dispatched 27 days in the month of August. So it's really, and we needed those generating units because the system was tied in a number of places. But they actually produced some revenue for us and made some money as well because market prices were relatively high. You can see on that load chart at the bottom of that page, we hit, according to this, we hit 638. I saw some other numbers on SCADA that were a little higher than that. But so we did have quite a bit of what I think was really record load in August, peak load anyway. On page 29, one thing I was going to point out, compare and contrast, the number of customer payments by payment type, the chart on the upper right-hand column of page 29, we're up close to 85,000 or so payments that are made electronically, and that trend continues in the upward direction. And at the bottom of that same page, one of the footnotes is that we had 2818 kiosk payments made. I looked back a year ago and we only had 1,400 kiosk payments. So folks are beginning to get used to kiosks and start to use those bank payments, which really keeps you from having to wait in line, and it's really easy to do. We've got folks out front that help folks with understanding how to use the machines. We've got some information online. Show people how to use them as well. This is important because when we get to the new facility in November, that there's not going to be a drive-through. Customers can present their invoice and their payment through the drive-through line. There's a lot of folks who still use that drive-through line now. So it's important that we have that folks understand and be comfortable using the kiosk, because that's other than coming inside to make payment, that's what will be available to them at the new facility.
Mr. McCullough? Sir.
When person talks about us putting in machines that needs to make change.
Yes, at the new facility, the kiosk will make change.
I think that would be something.
And then are we rolling out some of the Southwest Public or other area projects yet?
Not yet. We're still focused on the new building system and the kiosks that we're trying to get for the new facility. We'll have 3 kiosks in the new lobby. We'll have an outside kiosk. It's not a drive-through, it's a walk-up on the outside, so there'll be 4, and we'll be really assisting our customers to do most of their transactions through those kiosks in the new facility, so that'll be a change. And we have had the current drive-through has basically been closed already for a little over a month at this facility. The pneumatic tubes that take the payments back and forth have failed on us finally, and so rather than investing money to repair those, we've been letting our customers know over the last couple of months that the drive-through will eventually go away, and we really haven't had any complaints since because we've gone a little over a month, right, Jamie? On that. So that seems to not be as big of a deal as we were afraid it might be. At least we've been able to phase folks out and not cause a lot of upset over that. So.
When might we just phase out a counter? I mean, is there some state law that requires us to have a counter?
Well, that's basically what we are doing in the new facility. It's all kiosk, and of course we'll be heavily invested in helping those customers that aren't comfortable with it to use that. All cash payments have to go through the kiosks going forward in the new facility. We will have one teller lane basically opened in case we need to transact, some other business. That kiosk lines get too crowded or something like that. So.
But there's another note on the bottom of page 29, Mr. Bell, that talks about 3,368 customers were served in the lobby. So we still have a lot of walk-in traffic in the facility. That's not just payments, but people setting up service, getting assistance for
That was a great move. I mean, when I come in every time the person's run there, they always smile and, they're the director of first impressions for people walking in the doors. So I think this would be good.
Mr. McCall, back on the peak load date, when you said 6:38? Yes, sir. 108. Is there any, was that hot all the way down to Austin or wherever? Were there any issues down there, outages or anything like that? Any of those across the state?
You talking about in ERCOT?
Yeah.
No, there was some tight days, but I think actually that August 26th day when we had 109-degree temperatures here, ERCOT was in relatively good shape. So
They were sweating it a little bit. I think their capacity went down to about 2,500.
yeah, there were two occasions where they had to go on what they call an EEA alert, which once they do that, then there's additional resources that they can call on.
They were close.
But it was very tight. It's been tight.
Well, they lost another plant, I think. Coal plant.
They did a pretty good job with the press this year around that, letting people know they could. Some would say that probably stirred up more fears, but at least they were ahead of it. Both, at least the two times that I recall there being, one of them just a couple of weeks ago, September.
Yeah.
We had the hot weekend, I guess. 2 weekends ago.
Was that 638 a record for us?
638 is not a record, but I think my numbers that I got from SCADA and the numbers that were on the SPS bill were different than that, and I think it was a record from what I've seen. I'll verify that, though, because I really would like to know if it was a record.
Speaking of ERCOT and changing out meters, this weekend, Saturday, I guess, and I walked out the alley and there was a guy a couple of houses down working. I thought he was doing a backflow. It was pretty successful, probably too, but he was changing out meters. He didn't have any identifying stuff on it. And I asked him, I said, oh, because he told me he worked for a contractor and he's probably a sub of a contractor. I said, well, you don't have anything that identifies who you are. He said, no. I said, we're new. We don't have our name badges or whatever like that. So, just let you know, because they're just, they're dressed in jeans and sweatshirt. I don't know what he's doing.
And they are supposed to have
I know that.
uniforms on, and we've had some challenges with this new vendor. And we put some work stoppages in place. We said, stop, you're not going to continue until you follow our rules. And I think we're getting their attention by doing that. Michelle's been very stern with them and kept them on their toes. But I had one.
Last Saturday.
Yeah.
We're gonna
Yes.
want to know
The address. I can tell you.
Yes, please.
provide that
We're
feedback.
trying to keep on top of these folks, but we have how many installers right now across the city?
We're at almost 60.
Yeah.
60. So we have a large number, and not all of them like to follow the rules. So we're trying to enforce that.
Percentage-wise, how are we coming?
Electric utility-wise, we're about over 40% installed, marching ahead. Water is lagging behind, but they have plans to catch up. They better.
Yeah, and that, the report is on page 33 of your book, if you want to look at that. Total installed is 42,966, percent installed 40.2%. We've only had 32 opt-outs, which, you know, some might say that's higher than we expected, but to me it's not very many. I wanted to talk a little bit about the summary that you see midway down that page or towards the bottom of that page. We've started exceeding the daily plan, which we've been behind up to this point. So exceeding it is putting us in catch-up mode, which is very good. It was mentioned that we've had additional install contractors come in, and then Itron is also supplemented with staff, their own staff, that do installations. The billing is proceeding well. I know one of the issues we're working on is trying to close routes so that you don't have to fool with that route at all. And I don't know where we're at on that. I guess I'll find out later.
Dave, what does the meter not have been when we're waiting on the equipment?
That's correct.
We're waiting on the equipment, is that correct?
Yes. Some of the non-residential type meters, we're still waiting on a few shipments to come in to be able to close those out.
Looking at that map, east of I-27 is real thin. There, as far as the saturation of water, can you speak to that?
I can speak to that because we looked at that, and well, and Todd might could fill in too, but we did a special look at that because I noticed the same thing. We all noticed that looking at the map, but it's a little deceptive because there's some significant amount of work on the eastern side of the. Actually, I can skip over to a slide to show you.
While Andy's skipping over, how many of those opt-outs are people that are going to have opted out when we've tried to install, or they're ones that have just proactively and said we want to opt out? But it's both, I guess.
It's some of each, but I don't know if we've got a breakdown.
Very few have been when we go to the residents and they say, no, I want to opt out. Most of them have proactively, I mean, in the last 2 months, I think we've only gotten 2 or 3 new opt-outs, because if you look back at the report, 2 months ago, I think we were at 28 or 29. So, you know, we had a large group at the beginning who I think were planning to and waiting for the opportunity, a window to open up. And then since then, we've just had a handful come in.
Because I was a little concerned right there off the bat, because we have a meeting every other week to do with marketing communications, and we started at a high level, but really every meeting that we've had, it'd just be one more or not even as we've gone through the last few months. So a lot of people kind of rushed there in the beginning.
And we have had a few people who opted out and then went and did their homework and rescinded that opt-out based on the information that they found and what we helped them with.
So 1/10 of 1% would be roughly 100 or 100. So we're at 3/10 of 1% in that area. And how we're charging them like $500 a month to opt out? What is it?
$24.50.
That's not enough. I'm on the
Racing on water.
They want to be stuck with Fred Flintstone. They have a chance to be.
What does that mean, meter review at 68 of them?
Meter refused. Help me out.
Does that mean they've opted out or what?
Meter refused is a category that the installers are using as they weren't able to complete, but they had some interaction with the home. So it could have been, I don't want to allow you in the backyard without somebody home, or maybe it was somebody that was under 18 and their parents weren't home and they were unable to, they're not allowed to do the work if there's no adult present. So it could be meter refused right now, but we're going to schedule an appointment. It could be the early indicator of somebody that wants to opt out. They said no, and then the installers are instructed to have them contact us and opt out. I would not bridge the category and say all the meter refused are going to be opt-outs. We had thought that ourselves, and we did a bunch of follow-up and phone calls to those types of customers, and we found much more of the, no, I'm not refusing the meter, I just didn't couldn't do it at the time your guy showed up.
Maybe they had something going on, they didn't want the electricity interrupted or something like that.
How long does it take again, the interruption?
Not long, 5
Less than a
minutes.
minute in most instances.
Long enough to reset all our clocks.
As long as the big things flash.
Mr. Bertram, go ahead.
Yeah, this map shows a little bit better detail on the eastern side of the territory. You can see, it's kind of hard to see, but in this area here, almost 500 installs. There's 219, 103, 312, 180, and 139 in this area there. So there is some activity going on over there. This shows the maps that you have in front of you don't be like one dot for a bunch of meters, but you can see the pockets. And of course, again, we have to install where the lot are in proximity and close to each other, so because they communicate with each other, and so that will build out, continue to build out. Of course, the density of population is lower in the eastern portion of the city as well, so that causes some of this almost to lose. So, Todd, did you have anything else?
Yeah, if I could just add 2 other points. One is, the southeast is heavily a commercial area, and we had talked about having some delays in getting the commercial meters availability. So we have purposely not gotten down there just because we haven't had the right equipment. And I did look in the northeast area. Those routes are going to begin. The rest of the areas they're going to begin in late October, early November to be working heavily in that area as well. So, as Andy said, the zoomed out graphs are a little bit misleading because one dot represents a lot. So there is some there, but the rest of them will be in the next 2 months.
The other thing I was going to mention is we actually started getting outage reporting from the meters into OMS, our SCADA OMS system, which is something we've been working on for a while, and they finally got everything lined up right where the outage information can come from the meter that has been interrupted into OMS. So we don't have to wait on the customer call. We know immediately that, hey, we got power out over here. So we start dispatching crews. It's really a neat feature of this system that we get that instantaneous information. The chart at the top of page 34, I was going to highlight the installations that are above the plan, which I talked about a minute ago, which is hopefully will stay that way for a while. Get the project finished. Switching gears and talking about customer information system, which is the other big project that we got going on. At the bottom of page 36, there's some risks that are identified there. One of them has to do with the interfaces, the KUBRA and the ACS interfaces that have not been finalized. There's a lot of work going on that, but getting the systems to talk to one another is always a challenge. And actually, KUBRA is that last one. We'll be bringing a PSA amendment. I guess it'll be a new PSA to the board. I think the plan is to bring that in November, which will require board approval, and that's for them to design the changes to the interface. But KUBRA is the system, if you will remember, that does the billing and got the customer interface, self-payment, online self-payments, things like that, bill history. But all of that will have to be interfaced with the new system. So that'll be an important piece of this project. Lastly, I was going to talk a little bit about the commercial report. We didn't add that many new commercial accounts this month, but you can see that we completed about eight of the ones that we had in the queue. So we're starting to complete them. There's still quite a list of commercial expansions in Lubbock. Lubbock is growing. With that, unless there are any questions about it, I'll turn it over to Jason for the 115 kV program report.
Good afternoon, everybody. I want to start off with the what we're calling the 1.5 again, the overall program as we go through the middle of 2020. To To start, we've been talking about an overall budget adjustment and possible budget changes we're going to present this EUB board meeting. So the team has gone through several iterations preparing those budget changes, and we've decided to push that until October. There's no imminent need that we had to make those amendments this EUB meeting. We're going to make that proposal in the October board meeting. So just a heads up as to that. What that's going to allow us to do is have the overall projects. So what's not in the report now is Wadsworth, XFAB, Northeast, and the Encore projects. So the projects in which LPNL will have to reimburse Encore for, we will have those prepared and ready to discuss in depth next board meeting, as well as any associated budget adjustments or requests then. To maybe put some worry at ease, the overall budget increase we're looking at is under 5%, so it's not a very large increase, and we do have the ability to move some of the project funds around where some of these projects are a little bit overfunded, but we'll have that more in depth next month for y'all. We're going to go through the projects as we have in the past. From these, a few of these on the front side, we'll go a little quicker, and we'll slow down for the projects to have more of an update. First project will be McDonald. We are in closeout on McDonald. There were last month a few commissioning items to be completed, and now we're just in active project closeout. The next is Chalker to Oliver. One thing I'd like to point out as we go through the overall budgets or the projects, if you look at the cumulative forecast, you're going to see the anticipated spend in relation to the appropriation to date. So these are kind of the projects to look at for potential budget reduction. So our updated budgets that we have done are going to be representative here in the cumulative forecast, but we have not updated, appropriated, or budgeted to date. So kind of keep your eye on that this is what we're going to be targeting for next month's conversation. This is what the construction team is planning for. Next project is Chalker to Thompson. This is one that we had previously not identified a potential budget shortfall, and we'll talk about next month. Just wanted to make the overall board aware of that. Second, we have pushed the start of this project by 2 weeks, still starting in January. However, we're going to push it out 2 weeks, and it looks like I missed the 2020 instead of 2019. Apologize for that. Slayton Substation is awaiting the tie-in of the overall T-line. On this project, we're currently on schedule. No major update for it. Same thing with Red Raider Substation was last month. It is sitting and ready for the overall T-line. So Red Raider TAP is 92,560 to be the next page in your report. We are anticipating Red Raider TAP to be completed early. So we're currently forecasting the first week of October. We're hoping to have it done by the last of this month, so coming a week ahead of schedule. Next project is Thompson to Vicksburg. We had the pre-construction meeting yesterday with Higher Power. We're going to be targeting the last day, so I think it's 9:30 of September for mobilization of the project. We've kind of slid the mobilization back to better align with material deliveries. We didn't want the contractors sitting there twiddling their thumbs, waiting for materials, so anything we can do to save that cost, we have done on this project. It doesn't jeopardize the in-service date. They were able to compress their schedule and meet what LPNL was requesting. McKenzie project, we have a few items within your consent for equipment bid documents and such, and next month we'll have the construction bid for EUB approval. 467 is Vicksburg. We've talked previously about the WEG transformer having failed its initial FAT testing. It actually passed as of yesterday, and that team is coming home early, 2 days ahead of schedule. So we were happy to hear that, and we're currently targeting the second week, I believe, of October, if that's right, for the transformer delivery. Moving to Oliver. The awarded contract was to Interstate Electric, and we're going to be having their pre-con meeting on September 30th at 1:30, and mobilizing to site just soon after that. Northwest McKenzie. So we're still targeting the first week of December for mobilization. Again, we've slid out the start of this project. I think originally we were around the 1st of July. We moved to December to allow more time for right-of-way to get their portion as close to 100% as we possibly can before we start the project. Because the one thing we don't want is to have to skip or jump any landowners. The one thing we are targeting is, if we had to, all of our structures can be installed with right-of-way acquisition to date. In the event couldn't come to terms with one or two of the parcels, we'd have to just jump the stringing crew. What that allows us is to get into February and March, so to give Richard and his team adequate time to go ahead and still procure those parcels. So feel pretty comfortable with the construction dates on Northwest McKenzie. Erskine McKenzie, we don't have any updates as of different from last month. Honestly, we put it on the back burner. Northwest McKenzie was our primary focus, and then we'll go into Erskine and McKenzie. So it's going to be the same information as last month on this one. Holly, you have a few consent agreements for still bid, as well as some overall ancillary equipment for the station. This project's moving forward. We're going to start construction right now around November. I think it's the second week in November for 2019. For Southeast Oliver, the only thing we've done is we have brought this back 2 weeks. So now we're looking to start 2 weeks earlier than before. Right now, the second week of January. Last month we had said the first week of February. So we've actually been able to improve this schedule. Holly to Southeast. Only real update is we're looking to cut our PO for the steel poles to Valmont. We're targeting this Friday. If it's the first of next week, it's not going to really be a huge issue. The problem we're having, though, is maybe we'll want to walk a little bit more in depth, is the industry as a whole right now. There's a lot of projects going on, not just Texas, but all the U.S. So some of the steel pole manufacturers are having to push out their delivery dates. So we want to make sure and get on the PO for this project well in advance. What this is also going to do is exhaust the remaining funds for the agreement that LP&L had with Valmont. So the next project with Holly to Slayton, we're going to have to go back out to bid for steel poles. We won't be able to use the existing PO or agreement that LP&L had with Valmont. Won't be enough funds remaining within that. So as I said, with Holly to Slayton, two things. One is going to be the RFP package to go out to bid for steel. We'll be looking to solicit the market for that. And previously, we had not identified this as a project that we were going to have a budget shortfall on. Now we are fairly confident this will be one of those you will see next month for a potential budget amendment. Only real update for Southeast with its auto transformer is we brought it 1 month earlier than started construction. So now we're targeting July instead of August. And that's it for the conversion projects as of today. Again, for next month, we'll have the balance of projects through 2021. So Wadsworth, XFAB, Northeast, and the 345 LP&L projects with Encore. I was going to pass the mic over to Troy. Troy, do you want to give a brief update on the Encore CCNs?
We have a question. I have a question. So, job 92470, the substation rebuild at Oliver, on your sheet it shows construction and outages ending on 18th June of 21. So, I'm looking at the graph you have on the screen, the build-out deal. I guess that's the one that's kind of in the middle, Oliver sub OLSE outage. 1/4/2021 18. So one graph says 18th June 21. Is that just because I was looking at these saying, okay, when are the ones going to be closest to our potential conversion date? What's going to be the ones that we're waiting on? And then I was looking at that. Okay, how does that fit in your whole deal?
Yes, sir, and you caught an error that we did not find. So let me walk through that real fast. 92470. So one thing that we have done within our scheduling tools is we have linked the outages as they relate to the individual projects with the voltage conversion. So now we have a link error. So the overall outages for Oliver for construction stop more than likely back in mid-October.
Okay.
But we have a separate outage class to Oliver for voltage conversion, and we need to break that link so it actually would pull this back.
Okay.
So we caught that in some of the other projects.
So
We
it's
missed
just
it
an
here.
error on this grant?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
I got you. So what I was getting at is, so the information on this summary schedule that's the last page is correct. So
Yes, sir.
as far as
Anticipated voltage conversion schedule, yes.
so Wadsworth would be the last one to convert.
Correct.
Okay. Well, that's kind of I thought that's kind of where we were going, but.
Because that auto transformer at Wadsworth was not dual voltage, so we almost have to finish there still. The others are all dual voltage.
Staff, any questions?
Yes, on the Red Raider substation, note is we need to address a gap in the sub-wall. What is that? Has it been fixed or done?
So it has been fixed.
The gap has been fixed?
Yes, so we actually had a damaged wall panel by the contractor. So we're tracking that as a closeout item for the contractor. It was just a single panel, and it was UCS that damaged it, and they had to replace it.
Okay, and it's been done?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
So next month, the budget amendments you alluded to, what do you, give you a feel for what you're talking about total?
So I don't know if we're prepared to give the overall total, mainly because we're going to be moving some of the funds from closeout projects or ones that we know were overestimated. And until we can reallocate that, the overall number, we don't know it exactly. I wouldn't want to lead you astray on that. We just can say without certainty, or with certainty, that it's below 5% of the 1.5 that we showed you earlier, that 99 million.
Mayor, I can tell you that we know we're going to need additional funds on Northwest McKinney. That's in the neighborhood of $3 million, maybe a little more than $3 million. But we can take money from projects that have excess funds to provide that. We're probably going to need a little new money to go along with that. So it'll have to come to the council, most likely, for approval, and then come to the council for approval since there's new money involved. It's kind of the neighborhood of the numbers that we're looking at.
1.5%, something like that, is that what I heard you say?
Below 5% of the overall 1.5 that we had showed. So we're 99 million on the page 1 of y'all's documents. So less than 5 million. And primarily we're looking at 2 projects for an overall budget increase. The others would have a redistribution of funds.
And that has to do with the projects related to the 115 kV conversion. We currently believe that the Encore projects, we have well more money than the current estimates are, but we're not ready to reduce those budgets yet until all the routes are finalized and everything is a little bit more crystal clear. So I don't think overall, even though we're having an increase here, I don't think the overall capital program will see an increase at the end of the day.
Thank you.
That's it for the. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So the Encore CCNs are continuing to move forward. At the last PUCT open meeting, the commissioners did approve the first 2 CCNs. The first one is, as soon as the commissioners sign the order, the Encore team is preparing to move forward, send out initial offer letters to the landowners. Again, on that first CCN, Public Power and Light doesn't really have a dog in the hunt because they're not going to own it at the end. The second CCN, Abernathy to Wadsworth, that line will be owned by LP&L at the end of the projects. That final order will likely could have a small delay, even though it was approved by the commissioners. There was a couple of interveners that raised some concerns at the tail end of the open meeting. So we're still trying to figure out how that's going to play out. But bottom line is it was approved by the commissioners. The small changes that may be requested for by the interveners should be able to address those while the rest of the project moves forward. So overall, those first 2 CCNs are moving forward. Resources are lined up and ready to move. And we've made some good progress with Encore over the past couple of weeks with Renew and Andy on figuring out how we correlate their budget forecast versus LP&L's budget to reimburse Encore for their costs through those projects that they're building on behalf of LP&L.
There will be some shifts in some of the Encore projects at that budget amendment as well, because we initially opened a few, and now we have a better idea of all the different projects. It's really just shifting money between those. It's not an increase right now. I mean, again, like I said a moment ago, I think we have more in there that we may ultimately need, but there will be some new projects added just because we have more clarity on exactly what's going on with those projects.
That's right. We're looking at adding 6 unique new projects with new SIP numbers, but as Andy said, those will be funds will be removed from other projects to cover those. There won't be any additional, especially on the Encore component of it.
That's it for the director's report.
Not Andy or Leader.
Yes, I wanted to give an update on the winter rates for our pass-through, our power cost recovery factor portion of the rates. Just to remind everyone what that is, the power cost recovery factor it's actually the largest portion of our customers' bill. It's a rate that's designed to collect all of the power costs. So our power cost recovery factor revenues equal our power costs over time, both of the wholesale purchases that we make and also what we generate internally. We do adjust those rates on a seasonal basis on October 1 and June 1, so we will be implementing new rates on October 1, just coming up. We have, over time, have instituted what's called rate stabilization. We take on the volatility of our purchase power cost because that's very volatile from month to month. So we keep the rate steady seasonally for our customers and absorb that volatility of those costs internally. There were significant changes to our power cost structure on June the 1st, when the full requirements contract with SPS terminated, and we initiated the new contracts, the partial requirements with SPS, the capacity bridge with SPS, and the Elk City Wind contract, and as well as bringing on our own generation to supply our own load. So all of those changes occurred on June 1st. As you recall, we lowered the rates for the pass-through on June 1st. The board then approved another reduction on August 1st. And so if you compare the average monthly statement for our residential customers, we're a little less than $18 lower this year than they were during the summer of last year on average, or about a 11.7% reduction in what customers paid over the same time frame last year. So we have enjoyed the lower natural gas costs, which have lowered our power costs, and we've been able to pass that on through to our customers. All the charts that I'm going to show you are based on 1,000 kilowatt hours per month for a residential rate 1 customer. That's our largest rate class. However, even though we're just focusing on rate 1, all rate classes will be impacted very similarly. So again, you can see that overall bill for the average customer using 1,000 kilowatt hours dropped from $111 in the winter of last year to $103 for the first 2 months of this summer, and then dropped to about $92 for the last 2 months. This, again, is for those using the same amount of consumption on a month-to-month basis. If you remember, on June 1st, the reason for that reduction was reflective of lower natural gas prices that we are seeing in our locational marginal prices, or LMPs. Also, we have saved quite a bit of money in our new contracts with the lower capacity charges that we're seeing through SPS. Then, at the beginning of August, another reduction, which was related more significantly to a reduction that we received from SPS on the annual production true-up that they provide on an annual basis. We had expected it to be an increase. It was about a $4.5 million credit to us. So that, along with some over-recovery that we had seen prior to that, we were able to lower the rates again for those 2 months. So the hottest 2 months of the summer, we were able to lower those costs for customers. Back at our July meeting, when we recommended that reduction, again, it was to refund that true-up and the over-recovery. We did expect to still end the season over-recovered in our pass-through charges, so meaning that we still had collected more than our costs. However, we actually ended up with a little bit larger over-recovery than we had anticipated. Rates for the winter season will be, for the customer using 1,000 kilowatt hours, would be 102. If you compare that to last winter, that's was 111 last winter. So we have a reduction. Remember that reduction for August and September was always meant just to be a one-time really give back for some of that that lower cost that we'd received from SPS. What I want to do, though, is look at what does that look like for the average customer, because really the average customer doesn't use 1,000 kilowatt hours every single month throughout the year. It's volatile between the seasons. Significant differences between the winter season and the summer season. So last winter, or the non-summer season of 18 and 19, you can see in yellow the total usage of the average rate when customer uses 717 kilowatt hours. The rate last winter was 6.9 cents for that pass-through rate. So you can see it was $49.75 for the pass-through. The total bill with taxes and fees was $87.45. When we went to the summer months, this is an average of those 4 months of what rates were paid over those 4 months this summer. You can see, though, the consumption goes up to 1,269 kilowatt hours. Not quite double, but almost. So the average rate was lower than it was last winter, averaged about 5.6 cents compared to 6.9 cents. So you can see a $71 charge. So the summer bill, on average, was $130 with fees and taxes. Going into our new rate starting October 1, again, I'll use the same amount of consumption from last winter. Our rate is almost 6.1 cents compared to last winter. It was 6.9 cents. It is up a little bit from the summer, but due to the much lower consumption levels in the winter months, the total bill is about $81 compared to almost $87.50 last winter. So we've continued to see and enjoy the lower costs from natural gas and are able to pass that on over the next winter. So that kind of gives an overview of the rates that will be being implemented on October 1, and that's all I have. So if you have any questions, I'll turn it over to you.
Question?
Oh, yeah, one thing. Savings $6.50 a month. It equates to 7.4% savings from this winter to last winter.
Thanks, sir.
Yeah. And there is no board action required on this. It's been delegated to the Director of Electric Utilities on these seasonal changes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is that everything for out of line?
Now it's Ronu's turn.
Good afternoon, everyone. Hope everybody's as excited as I am, as always. So, let's start with our last month and see what all we did. We'll start off with the income statement because that's what we've done. And I'll tell you, our revenue has decreased when we compare to prior year. But the change is due to the lower PPRF rates that we have set back in October of 2018, once again in June this year. And when we compare, and help me a little here, when the base rate revenue last year at this point in time was $54 million, and in 2019 we are at $52 million with about 3.8% decrease, which is almost comparative to the consumer consumption decrease of 3.6%. So nothing too worrying over there, because with that decrease, we have a substantial decrease in our expenses as well. One of the biggest decrease that we would see is in our supply maintenance and other category. Our other category includes all of our legal, admin, and engineering costs, which has gone down approximately $1.8 million, and that was offset by an increase of $400 in our maintenance bucket. Our purchase of fuel and power keeps coming under. We have $22 million approximation so far. That is due to our lower regional natural prices that we are experiencing at this point in time. So good things for us. Our transfers are also lower when we compare to prior year. That is due to prior year being the catch-up year for our Citizens Towers debt payments that we were making, as current year is not, so they come in under. Let's see what we're doing on a balance sheet side. Everything's looking good. We have increase in our cash when we compare it to the year end, which is just due to the timing, the payments to the escrows, the transfers and the funding, and all the other things that we're doing. Bless you. Nothing substantial is going on there. But when you compare our accounts receivable, you see the change gap is closing as we get higher and higher into the hotter months, compared to last month, we actually have $2 million increase in our accounts receivable. Our restricted investment keeps coming under. You would see a decrease of 36, but that is also in line with the increase of our capital assets. So as we utilize more funds to build more things, clearly we're spending more money. So looking good on balance sheet. On the other hand, of our liability, that's also doing good. We have about 7.1 million decrease in our accounts payable and a due to line item. That is largely due to our accounts payable as it was at year end due to O&M expenses, our CapEx spending, and our WTMPA invoice coming down by 2.5 million due to fuel costs. Our deferred revenue is at increase of 21 million. That's as a result of the lower PPRF price rates and the natural gas prices changed since the year ended. Now, our customer deposit keeps going up, and as I mentioned, we would continue to see increase in that liability as the year continues to grow, as we've changed our residential customer policy to our commercial customer policy. Bond payables down. Other category, which is another one that is down by 3.2 million. As you remember, one of the things that is putting dent into that decrease is the TTU payment that we made through this year, which was on our books last year at 1.8 million. And then we had unwind of our accruals, which has brought us down. So that brings us to our cash flow. And that too, when we compare to the prior month, we're doing good. We are high in our operating cash flow activity. We continue to make payment, and our financing activity cash flow is in negative, which means we made payments, built CapEx, and had some expenditures over there. Our investing activity is still in the positive as we utilize the funds from restricted budget. But overall, we are back to 94 and positive when it matters. Now let's compare everything to our budget 2 years, see how we're doing. Now our meter revenues are down about 16.86% compared to this time last year. That is due to a lower purchase power revenue as a result of our lower purchase power cost. That's a ton of this. Okay. Our other revenue, though, on the other hand, is significantly higher. What is contributing to that is our power marketing revenue, our construction from the outside. As David has mentioned, the city is growing. We have so many outside work orders that we just can't anticipate. So we're doing good. Everything on the expense category is tracking pretty well. As we are in the 10th month of the year, we would expect everything to be about 83-85% range. There is no bucket or no actual cost center or the expense has given us any indication that anything's amiss. Everything is within 85%. Our fund level expense is a little bit higher, but as I mentioned last month, now they would stay at 80% throughout the end of the year. So that concludes our overall presentation. Any questions?
I've got several questions for you. So you mentioned that one of the reasons why revenue was down is because our overall usage of electricity
Correct.
is less than the same period last year.
Yes.
So our total kilowatt hours we billed is less than last year.
That's right.
Same year.
This was through July.
This was through July, yes.
Okay.
And June was especially cool and much lower than historical.
Right.
So June was really the month of July was pretty much in line with prior years, but June was a big,
was wet and
Yeah.
a lot cooler. Yeah. Okay. I just want to make sure I heard that right. So we're looking at July to July.
Yes.
Okay. Now, the other question I had, or one of the other questions, y'all remind me again, when we get into this paying for the ERCOT hookup, which is the encore schedule, basically, we've got a line of credit in effect, a revolving term agreement set up. What's the total amount of that?
300 million.
300 million. And so we'll be drawing the bulk of that probably in Q3, Q4, 2020 year.
That's about right. We've actually made our first draw last month.
Last month for 2 million.
Yeah. 2 million's the minimum incremental level, and so we went ahead with that first one. But it'll dramatically pick up, and we get a Is it going to be a monthly
It's
budget?
going to be a monthly change every month as we go, because Joe's going to put up every month as we spend, he's going to put up the monthly expenditures that we created and we'll draw on based on
Okay,
that.
okay, and that's going to be a construction note, that's going to be a short-term note until we sell the bonds to permanent funding.
That's correct. And Encore is providing us a monthly estimate all the way out to the end of June of 2021 of how much they're anticipating to spend, and they're going to be updating that monthly. So we have a cash flow projection, and we know, at least today, what their anticipation is of when we'll be needing to draw on those funds. So we have an idea on all that.
And yesterday we got a commitment from Encore that they will be happy to provide that on every 10th of the month. They will update their budget and send it our way, so we know how much we've drawn down.
So, and that's going to be the financial information that comes later.
Yes.
Right? And then I guess the last question I had is on the budget deal. If I can get the right sheet. Here we go. So, tell me again so our overall budget, our annual budget shows a surplus of 4.9 million. And right now, we're at a deficit of 2.4. Is that right?
Yes. And that's very seasonal. This time last year, we had a deficit of 3.4 million, so we're doing a little better this year than last. It really don't, you don't see it really pick up and catch up to the budget until the August and
last
September.
2 months of the summer, right?
That's right.
Okay. And part of that's because of the debt service and the other items that are done with cash.
Absolutely, yes.
Make sure I'm looking.
It's never made sense for utilities to be on a September 30th fiscal year, but just about every one of them is. Because all your revenues come in, and your major expenses come in during the last 3 months.
They get it for people like me and Renew to sweat all year long. How are we going to end it?
I think that's all the questions I have. Thank you, Rick.
All right, you're welcome.
Any other questions? All right.
Thank you, guys.
All under item 9.
Mr. Chairman, love to see council meeting, Mr. Chairman.
That brings us to item 10, consider a resolution directing staff to state net metering rates as contained in the electric rate tariff schedule of both fire and light. Stop by the city council and report findings. EUB with the motion. Any motion to bring that up? A second. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I have a couple of questions. Mr. Burson, if you don't mind helping me out on this. I think that at last month's board meeting, this net metering is certainly an issue not only local but across the country. Correct me if my figures are wrong. We have approximately 20 customers of the 105,000 right now that has been in this, got the solar panels or whatever, for 1 year, about 20. Is that a correct?
23 is the actual number.
23, sorry.
That's right.
And in the total of people that have begun of that, about 188, give or take, something like that. So, though it's increasing, it's still a very low percentage. I guess one of my questions is, it's not that we don't need to study it, but the timing of it. I know that we're going through the conversion of billing and et cetera, et cetera. Are we able to even do this right now? And what I'm getting is, how do we manage expectations? Let's pretend for a minute we said, yeah, we'll do this. But we really can't do it until X date. Could you help me out a little bit in explaining desire and practicality and reality in this, please?
Sure. As you all know, we're currently undergoing the new billing system the planning and preparation to go live with the billing system in the second quarter of next year. So that work is underway. If we were to do a study on the net metering or to make a change to those rates, that implementation into our new billing system would not be able to occur until after we go live. So that second quarter of next year, we could start making those changes in the system. Once the system goes live, though, we will have a lot of post-go live activities to make sure that the system is stable and operating as expected, and all those activities that occur once you go live with the new system. So really, to be realistic, I would say you would be looking more at October 1 of the next fiscal year, where we could actually go live with a new rate structure for net metering. So even if we did this work today, I believe that realistically that would be as soon as you could implement a change to the system.
So in terms of practicality and reality, even though it's a great idea, it's premature. We're over our ski tips. In other words, we're way ahead. We're about a year ahead of when we could really do it.
It is a year ahead before you can implement them. We can study it, so there might be a point in time where that study would need to occur. So we have the information and can go as quickly as we can. But you're right. I mean, from a customer perspective, it wouldn't be implemented until basically this time next year.
So I guess, Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Stafford, if you're moving to postpone this until after the implementation of the system on the second tranche.
that's what I'm asking, to continue this until after that, given the, I just think it's premature.
If I read this resolution, all it is saying you'll come back to this board next March with a study. That's all. We're not approving anything, but just, setting the stage to come back with something.
I just agree. I think it's premature to do that now. We should wait till we get everything.
So I move to continue, and fix precedent. No, continue October.
It is, that's a precedential motion, so it will be voted on first. And if it fails, then the motion that was initially made will be voted. Well, I certainly disagree with postponing it, because all we're approving is that, hey.
But it's still premature.
Take your motion.
Okay. I move to continue this resolution.
Second. Okay, so we have,
Can I have a point of clarification? Typically, a motion to continue is to a date or an event certain. And so that this could be studied and be ready for October 1st, Mr. Merchant, what would be a fair date? And I'm talking, what would be a fair date as far as the study being?
I believe the study could probably be accomplished within less than a 2-month time frame. So, but then again, you have to take the time to make all the changes to the billing system. How long would you estimate something like that would take in the new system?
That's not really the concern. There's some testing time, so theoretically, 90 days is preferable with a totally new rate.
Let's just say October.
Let's just say October.
Regularly scheduled electric utility board meeting of October 2020.
yes, then you have for December.
That motion takes precedence. It should be voted on, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so we have a motion to move it to October of 2020. We have a second one, Mr. Taylor. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Whoever gets raise your right hand, so I can count for that. And all those not in favor of the same motion. All right, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 3. Got that right? 7, 6, 6, 3. Thank you. 6-3 in favor. Thank you. That motion passes. So
We'll bring this resolution back for the regularly scheduled October meeting of the electric utility.
And Mr. Chairman, just a point of personal privilege, this is not to say we shouldn't do it. I think it's to manage expectations.
I agree with you. I think it's premature. I think it's common things in that they have right now.
Okay. Somebody said October 2020.
Yes, ma'am. That's when they believe all this will be implemented, everything. It'll take 90 days to study, so December, we should have the report, and then if the report comes back and the study says it's good, then you have it rolled out in January 2021. Yes, sir.
Matt, just in case the media gets a hold of this, be sure and explain to them that this wasn't a vote to, no, we're not going to accommodate. It just
Right.
is premature. I hate to see the headline, because that's all the purpose of this was, to send a signal that, hey, yeah, we hear you, and we're interested, and we're going to do something. And I'm disappointed we didn't.
I think they ran a story last month, right after our last board meeting, they kind of
They
stated.
did. KLBK, KMAC ran one. And they did, and the reporter did a really good job of including in there that as the board goes forward and studies it, nothing can happen until date certain. And so that's really what we communicated, is just trying to line it up, as the staffer said, with expectations of when they can expect to see an action on it based off of when it makes sense with the new system going in.
Can I ask a question just to make sure I understand? So we bring it back to the October 2020 meeting. So then that would give us a couple of months to do the study. That gets you to December, and then 3 months basically to get it implemented into. So it'll be
Yes,
February
whatever
of
the study
21.
may say, it could say.
Okay, I just want to make sure I have the
Yes, sir.
y'all's
Yes, sir.
understand. Okay.
So those timelines work for you guys, yes.
Mr. Chair, if we're ready to move to
Number 11, strike that.
Let me say, at whatever point it's at the chair's will, the board's will, I would appreciate if we could recess in the executive session for 2 to 3 minutes to discuss this issue.
Okay.
But that would be, at your, at the board's will.
I will lean on the attorney, and I will say that the EUB board will recess into executive session for 5 minutes. All right, the EUB is now back into open session. Brings us back to item number 11. We're going to pass this time on considering a resolution recommending City Council of City of Lubbock 5 appointments and bring that back up in October. Number 12 is consider and take possible minute action related to the date, time, and place of the regular electric utility board meeting for November of 2019. I'll take a motion to consider that item. Second. A second by Ms. Henry, Mr. Davis. So discussion on that in terms of, we've got a couple dates. We've got some issues with some other items that are coming up in November, obviously Thanksgiving and everything else as well. I think we were looking at the 18th and 19th. Is that Monday and Tuesday?
But the 19th is the date that is unavailable.
Oh, it's unavailable. Sorry, 19th is unavailable, so it's going to be the 18th or the 20th, I believe is what we discussed, right? Correct?
Yeah,
It was Monday or Wednesday.
Either one is fine. Is a Monday or Wednesday
I
better?
think we thought, is Thanksgiving on the 21st this year, 28th? 28th, okay, so that we can find. 22nd, that was the important date, was birthday, so. I forgot it a couple times. Exactly. So, it's, I'm open, 18th or the 20th, really links everyone else in here.
So we're definitely not meeting on the 15th.
19th.
I'm sorry, I'm in the wrong one.
Sorry,
For staff, is Wednesday the 20th better to let you get back from the weekend?
Speaking for legal staff, we can adapt it whenever the board desires to schedule the meeting.
The same is true for non-legal staff.
Amazing, and I voted on
18th, Monday the 18th, for sure. Okay. Monday the 18th.
That'll be the day for NICO's annual meeting. I can be here, but I'll be here later.
You may be gone, you might not be
You're asking me to look at my calendar. I'm going to go ahead and assume I want to be here.
All you gotta do is look at him and say, he says you're gonna be here.
Okay, so November 18th.
Okay, there was a motion made without a date.
Oh, sorry.
Whoever made the motion.
Davis, did you read November 18th motion?
Move that we change the November meeting from the 19th to November 18th.
We have a second from Ms. Henry. So second that, okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, by saying? That passes.
Mr. Chairman, I might just mention quickly that because WorkSource is moving out of this facility, and they're taking all these tables and chairs with them when they move, we're thinking about an alternate location for that November meeting, and we're not sure that what that situation will be with meeting rooms over there, whether they be complete or not. So we're looking at possibly going out to the hill for that meeting. We're going to go out there and look at it.
Meeting bags are cheap.
Can we get the vans off?
Like I said, we got the west building, we're gonna, use it right there, 16, 19, 16, 29. Chamber.
Council chambers.
Or the current city hall.
Yeah, city, current city hall.
We'll have a place, maybe on probably one under 10. We'll have one.
We're gonna have a foot in both places.
So we're good, the 18th place to be determined.
Mr. Atkinson, I'll get with you as far as a good safe posting meeting place.
Absolutely. Very broad, Richard, very broad.
Terrace.
So we'll be meeting on city property somewhere.
Terrace suites are great. The terrace suites
Yeah.
are great.
At Civic Center.
Plenty of parts of
That would be.
Don't let us go.
Atkinson's going to be charged for it.
All right, that brings up item 13, consider a budget amendment, amending the fiscal year 2018-19 capital program, amend capital improvement project 92-598, and the fiscal year 18-19 underground distribution, and 92-524 Milwaukee Avenue underground meters, and then 92-564 Cook Station gas turbine, GT3 repairs, and then 92-613 Massengill Unit 8 hot section overhaul.
These are two separate issues. The first one is moving $75,000 from the underground distribution project, capital project, to the Milwaukee Underground Feeders project. The contractor bids came in a little higher than expected on the Milwaukee Avenue Feeders project, so we needed an additional $75,000 to be moved into that project. The second issue is related to the repair at Cook turbines. We are moving some remaining funds from the Massengill Unit 8. We had repairs on that unit. We came in under budget on those repairs, about $600,000. To be exact, $599,755 under budget on that. We're moving those funds into the Cook project to be able to expedite and get those repairs underway, so we'll have those taken care of. Eventually, we will have the insurance proceeds that will come in, basically would fall to our bottom line at that point. But so this is to get this underway and going as quickly as we can. So that's what those two are for.
Questions there? You need two motions? No, it's just continue. We're okay there, right?
I'm sorry.
We don't need a motion or something there?
It's regular.
It's regular, motion second. Yes, sir.
All right, so yes, we do need a motion for after that meeting, sorry. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, the motion is second, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, same. That passes. Item 14 is consider another budget amendment for the fiscal year 19-20 operating budget by reclassing full-time equivalent position legal cost center 7113 and reducing the appropriated expenses in the legal cost center of 7115.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Board. Up until this year, reclassifications were handled through city manager authority, going through HR. That process has changed now, and it will be done. Mr. Atkinson has said that it should be done through the budget process. So here's the first reclassification that the board will have under this new process. Just a couple of things on this. We have a presently budgeted legal assistant 2 position. We have attempted in two different procurement or recruitment processes unsuccessfully. Usually for different reasons. We have found people that would fit good, that we can't have the money. We have found in other recruitments where we couldn't find anybody that fit good. And so we just had a real issue here. Jenny and I and David and Andy brainstormed this and thought, well, let's try to bring in a baby lawyer that will also, that number one, because the law school's here, we typically have some interest in that regard. And due to the money difference of basically in the salaries being somewhere around $30,000, let's kill a couple of birds with one stone. Let's get some help, and then also there could be some underpinned succession benefits in this regard. And I think that certainly I am in favor of this. I think it's a great idea. I don't think it costs much. I think we'll get a whole lot more bang for the buck. And I think it's a great idea, and we should do it. And if y'all pass this, we'll have to go over to the budget, to the city council for budget process for 2 readings. So that'll go over to these ladies and gentlemen. Stand by for questions.
If I read the formula correctly, you're going to offset. It looks like you pretty much offset it with what we've been farming out.
We don't need any new funds. Yes, sir. We'll offset it from the outside council.
As you know, in the past, when we had this position come up, I've had a couple of people that I've worked with in other areas that were, they were interested in the because of the salary. I mean, it just wasn't, it was like probably 15, 20 grand off from what they're making to doing something.
That has been
one
our...
of them was a certified paralegal and one of them wasn't certified, but very experienced.
That's been our experience, and we had one individual that was interested, and we were very interested, and we worked with HR to bump up the pay to a certain extent, which was immediately upped by her present employer. And so, you know, you're sitting here at $35,000 for someone that you're asking for to have the right degree of experience and judgment, and it's very difficult.
Other questions, discussion? All right, if not, take a vote. And, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Same opposed? That also passes. All right, that brings us to the consent agenda items. Everyone had a chance to read. Is there any others that you would like to pull off? If not, I'll entertain a motion for items 15 through 26, sorry, on the consent agenda.
Move that we approve the consent agenda as listed.
Second from Ms. Stafford. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Also passes.
Mr. Chair, I'd just like to make a comment. One of the items that we just approved was item 18, and it allows for the city manager to dispose of 2 pieces of property. I think there was a bit of, we read it maybe a little bit differently. I think we've used this exact language before. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Kastner. I have no argument about the fact that we will sell it for fair market, least fair market value, and put the money in the LP&L fund. What it implies to me is it gives the city manager the authority, the room to move around that, to do that when he sees when it's appropriate. There's not any kind of something that dictates a certain time frame. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
That is correct. Essentially, the control and management is relinquished.
Just want to make sure. That's his job. You know, the one on Auburn, I think we'll try to liquidate as soon as we can. I think the one downtown, we probably would much rather allow downtown to continue to move. Frankly, it may be worth more money at some point. But in the meantime, if you don't see action on that, just know that that's sort of what our thoughts are.
Okay. It's a biblical washing of one's hands.
Okay. All right. And we are adjourned. Thank you all.